Coach, so you can you hear me?
I can.
We hear you. So we'll conclude with the Southeast Missouri men's team. The only new head coach in the league, Brad Korn. Welcome. We'll have some media questions in a second, but if you'll just start off and just let us know what are your general thoughts on this upcoming season.
I just want it to happen. To be quite honest with you, obviously it's been a challenge for everybody involved. I do appreciate everyone's hard work to try to make it happen. So I hope that we get the opportunity to play. Really is what it comes down to. And I think all the athletes, all the coaches, administration, media members, we all want that to happen too in the most safe and effective way possible. So I just hope that we can get some continuity, and I hope we don't hit too many bumps on the road, and we can execute this season the right way.
Media have questions. If you want to just say in the chat that you have a question, then I will call on people. Coach, it's not a normal year, but is there anything that you can do to make it a little closer to normal for your players?
We've had some player meetings this week, and my whole message to them is just I want to try to be as consistent and as clear as possible. Whether that's what's going on the outside world, whether that's what the conference offices talked about, or whether that's what we're going to do with our institution, is just really just be as clear and open as I can be, and really not having them hanging in the balance. And it's already going to be a tricky year, a lot of unknowns, and just really relay information as best I can, as fast as I can to them, so they can put their mind at ease, focus on academics, focus on basketball, and not have to worry about what's going to go on or what it's going to look like. That's really been the main focus for myself and the staff. Before
we go to the media questions, then let's take you back then. Obviously, you played at Southern Illinois, so you knew about SEMO. You played against SEMO when you were in college. The job comes open. Just what are your thoughts? Like, you were looking for your head coaching job. What intrigued you most, I guess?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, is that I was somewhat familiar with the area, familiar with the university. And to me, I knew to be the best that I could be, it had to be at a place where I was in line with the administration. I felt great in the community, and they wanted to support the program. And I think you have all three of those things here. And that's really what stood out to me. I didn't want to become a head coach just to say I was a head coach. I think a lot of times guys can do that, and then you look back and your career's a mess, your family's a mess, just because you kind of took the wrong job. And I feel I'm supposed to be here. That's where I wanted to be. My family wanted to be here. And I really feel that way with Cape. We've been welcomed with open arms. We're obviously still in that honeymoon phase. But again, every day I pinch myself, just because it's like, man, this is what you wanted. And it's at an institution from President Vargas to Mr. Barkey on down. I think things are in place here to do what we need to do and what the region and the community wants.
Do you, one more, and then I'll open it up. I just had to ask this. You remember, or anything stand out when you were at SIU playing against SEMO back then? There were obviously both programs had some good teams during those years.
Yeah, we did. There were some battles, and that was back. We were playing Murray as well, basically in home and homes. So got really familiar with the OVC. But probably the thing I remember the most, other than just really good games and great players on both sides, was I think I had about 4 dunks in my career, and one of them was in the Show Me. So at least I got that going for myself. And we'll get Mr. DQ Nichols out here. He thinks he's had some moves and all this and that. But I actually got a dunk in the Show Me Center, so he's got some catching up to do.
All right, we'll go to our media questions then. And again, if you have one, just let me know in the chat. Harry Schroeder, if you'd like to start off first with Coach.
Sure. Hi, Brad. Welcome back. Good to see you. Hey, I wanted to ask you about the transfer guys that have come in. Are they all eligible? Who's eligible? Who's not? And I wanted to ask you about how healthy Harris is after last year's injury.
Yeah, also Chris has done a phenomenal job of getting himself back into shape. And when we started workouts, he was totally medically cleared, full go. And ever since then, he's been doing well. Off days, he goes and gets some treatment and rehab. And so he's doing a good job of taking care of his body. It's just a matter of working him back into that game shape. So he's good to go. As for our transfers, obviously our junior college transfer guys are good to go. We had 3 guys that came here from Division I transfers. The one guy that is eligible right away, Nolan Taylor, who came from Cal Poly, who's also at Pepperdine. He is eligible right away. And we're still waiting word on the other 2 young men, Manny Patterson and Parker Long, to see if they'll be able to be eligible right away as well. So as of right now, along the recruiting process with those guys, we just kind of were waiting to see where those guys are at and if they'll be eligible right away.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, it seems like every day somebody's getting a new transfer. I mean, everybody's getting approved, so you would kind of assume they're going to make it.
Yeah, you would think, and it's been, I think in this year too, just with COVID and all the uncertainties and everything else like that, I think it's made it easier for the NCAA to grant some of those waivers. So we'll see. We'll see where it's at. And then when they came out and said that everyone can have kind of basically have this year back, I think it kind of spurred a little bit more urgency to those.
Nobody can prepare you for what you've been through. First year on the job, pandemic, social unrest, crazy election. But how are you navigating those waters? And have you at least leaned on Bruce Weber or Chris Lowry or some of those guys a little bit?
Yeah, the problem with the pandemic and some of these other issues is this is the first time they've ever been through them as well. So, we're kind of all figuring this thing out together. The thing of it is I've been, you always want your opportunity. And we tell this to the guys all the time. It's like, you always want your opportunity. You always want your opportunity. And then when you get one, if you only find what's wrong with that opportunity, well, then now it doesn't become an opportunity. Now it becomes a job. And I don't feel this is a job. This is where I wanted to be, no matter the circumstances. I had somebody ask me again and say, hey, if you could go back and you knew that this was going to happen before you took the job, would you still take it? And the answer is 100 times yes. Again, because it's where I wanted to be, it's where I think we can be successful. It's in a region and the people that want their program to do well. So I tell the guys all the time, every day I walk down those stairs in the Show Me Center and I look around, I pinch myself because it's like, man, I don't care what's going on in the outside world. When we're in our little bubble, so to speak, to me, it's the best that it can possibly be. And that's the approach that we take, that every day is day one. And that's where, that's where my mindset is and my perspective is, because I think that will ultimately bleed and run into the players as well. And I think sometimes if you focus too much on all the problems around you, you never focus on the great things that you do have every single day. And that's what we try to do.
Last one for me, in light of some of the social unrest, you guys are playing in an MTE. I guess it's an MTE. They're in Kansas City, the Negro Baseball League tip-off or whatever it's called. Will your guys, A, get a chance to go see the Hall of Fame there? And B, do you see that as a real timely thing for what's going on in our nation?
Yeah, I do. I do. And it was really important too. And we'll make a donation to the museum and we'll take the guys over there. And I think a lot of it too, and I forget the man's name that passed away recently of cancer, who played Jackie Robinson in the movie 42. And you think about him and his life and his path, and really a true pioneer, really in a sport where he was the only one. And I think there's a lot of teaching points there. We always talk about it's bigger than basketball, especially now with everything, as you mentioned, with the social unrest that's going on in the world and everything else. And everyone seems to have opinion and everyone always wants to be right. Now let's take a step back. Let's learn from our past. Let's learn from somebody else that actually walked it and talked it and did something about it. And I think Jackie Robinson is probably one of the better examples that we could find out there. So I think it'll be a very, very great thing for our guys, and we'll educate, open discussion that we try to always foster here. And I think it's a great opportunity for our guys to be able to open their eyes to maybe something they didn't know about before.
Thanks a lot, Brad. Stay safe.
Hey, Gary, you too.
Other questions? If you have a question for Coach, just let me know down in the chat, and I will call on you. Coach, can you talk a little bit about maybe the family atmosphere around the program? You take the job and then the pandemic, and so the guys kind of got us, and you guys a lot of new guys too, but you got to support. They have to kind of support each other. So how do they get each other through those times and to where you are now?
Yeah, probably a tricky thing about that too is like you're trying to build a family atmosphere, but at the same time, when we first showed up on campus, it was stick to your roommate, stay over here. Everybody's in their own little silos, and so it's like, well, how do you get them together if they can't be together? But I've got to give our guys credit, because during the summertime and up until now, they were communicating on their own in their own little group chats, as they always do. But even now that we finally have gotten, I don't want to say past that point, but to the point where we are around each other a little bit more, and they're hosting team dinners on their own. They've done a couple other small group functions together. We've had them at my house finally once we got to the practice portion. So there's things like that we'll continually try to do, but at the beginning, on the outset, we're trying to be as smart and as cognizant of what was going on around us as possible. So that made it tricky, but I got to give our guys credit, because they've made the initiative, they've made the effort to get to know one another, again, because there were so many new guys coming in, and it was during the pandemic.
We'll go next, Tony, if you want to ask your questions.
Hey, Brad. I want to ask about DQ Nichols and how much he's improved since you first saw him?
Yeah, and I told a lot of the guys, obviously you get a job, you watch film in the past. And being a freshman point guard, you haven't won a lot, it becomes stressful. And I knew DQ was something special just from seeing the few clips and the very first time that I talked to him. When our conversations of when I first got the job, it didn't take him long to be fully bought into what we were trying to do. You know, explaining to him what our mission was, what our vision was, where we're trying to take this program and the people that we want to do it with. He embodies all that. He has been very impressive in practice, both sides of the basketball. He's obviously very fast, very athletic, but now it's like filling up the small holes in his game. Someone that competes every single possession the way that he does is only going to get better. And I told the staff one day after practice a couple of days ago, after we finished, we came up to the offices like, guys, no matter what we do in recruiting, find us DQ Nichols is all over the place because you win with guys like him. He has all the right stuff. He has all the right substance. He puts in the work. Now we just got to get into that leadership role and then the basketball role as far as understanding the game so it slows down for him. Someone with that much speed and athleticism and talent, now the more that he can understand the game, the more the slower the game will go for him, which is then going to make him even that much more effective.
Do you see him as a focal point in your offense going forward?
Yeah, it's probably, I mean, it's going to begin and start with him. And I think a lot with him as well is transition. You know, we get into transition. I mean, he's so fast. And I think a lot of people that on the outside may not know about our team. Now, if he's got that ball and he's pushing it and we've got other people around him, the floor should be spaced, which is, again, you get DQ in space, very, very good. And I think that it's not only going to fall on his shoulders. You know, we have a lot of other guys I think that people may not know about right now. They can do some things offensively, but given his speed, his athleticism, he's a good catch and shoot guy. Now, I think that everything that we're trying to do offensively is going to help really propel his game to another level.
Let's see. Actually, speaking of guys that people might not know about, Nolan Taylor was not really a starter in his last two spots. Where have you seen him so far as practice? Is he someone who could see more minutes, could be a big deal in the post?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, if you go back and look at the games that he's had, even when he's at those other places, he had some huge games. I think he can really score the ball with his back to the basket. He's massive. You know, he's a big kid. It was really just mainly being smart about him getting back into the flow of actual basketball practice because he was injured. And so now we're just getting to that point where now he can give us everything that he's got because he's smart, he's older, he's tough, he's strong, he's big. And you need all those things at those positions. So I look forward for him and just meeting with him today and just now becoming a little bit more of that vocal leader because he has been around the block, so to speak, from time to time. And I think for him in the recruiting process, it was more of like he wanted to go to a place that was ready to compete and wanted to win right away, as opposed to, we'll just restart this thing and whatever the case may be. He wanted to go where he could have an impact. And I think he can help us have an impact because there's really not, as it sits right now, until we get some other news, you know, you're looking at everybody on our team and everybody on our roster is going to have to compete and contribute from day one. And so there's really not just like a group of guys here and then a group of guys here. We're all going to be all in until we get some other news as far as the depth of what that actually looks like when games begin.
And through your weeks of practice so far, who has established themselves as an outside presence in terms of shooting?
I think that, like I said, DQ can catch and shoot the ball well. Chris Harris is a phenomenal shooter. Nigel Russell is our returning three-point field goal percentage guy out from last year's team. Eric Reed is a junior college kid who has really, really shot the ball the last couple of weeks very, very well. So I